So right now we have an exciting thing for you. We have Kevin Goeken and Ray Foerster here. They're going to be talking about hogs and sheep in our wonderful series called Discover the World of Farming with the Clay County Farm Bureau. So this is our third in our series. We're doing it every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. We'll have one more next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and we'll be talking about equipment and chickens. And that will be Tim Schwenecker, Casey Shoemaker, and Nick Smith. So right now we have Ray Foerster. He's going to tell you about those hogs.
Okay, hi. Thanks for having me. My name's Ray Foerster. A little bit about myself before we start the presentation. I work for Smithfield, large hog production company within the United States. I am not an Iowan. I am a transfer. My wife and family and I moved here in 2003 from Pennsylvania. And the reason I moved here was hog production. So we moved out here. My children were in 7th, 5th, and 3rd grade. And since then, they've all graduated from Spencer High School and have stayed in the area. My daughter is a veterinarian over at Animal Medical. My oldest son drives semi for a small transport company out of Wapaton. And my youngest son finished his enlistment with the Marine Corps, and he's at Sheldon for a welding class right now. So when we talk about agriculture as part of the economics and bringing people into Northwest Iowa, I'm your story. I work for Smithfield. What we're going to go through here, the second slide is a short video, 4 minutes and 30 seconds-ish. So it's an overview, and then we're going to go through slides that kind of reinforce what you saw in the video. I have a tendency to use a lot of pig production jargon. So if there's a word that I throw out that you say, I don't know what that means, just stop me. And we can go through that and make sure you understand what I'm talking about. So we'll talk about pigs in general here, and then hopefully take some questions, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to wait for the video to queue up. What we do for Smithfield in Iowa is we have what's called finishing, and you'll hear about that in the video here. Where is the cursor? It's a little choppy, but hopefully you'll get the point across.
As part of the Smithfield Foods family of companies, Murphy Brown is responsible for raising hogs safely and humanely. We believe that producing good food responsibly starts on the farm. It's a commitment we honor throughout each stage in the development of our animals. We respond to their changing needs by caring for them in specialized environments in each stage of their lives. Let us show you how we do it. The well-being of our animals is our top priority, and it begins with care for our pregnant sows. Murphy Brown is in the process of converting from individual gestation stalls to group sow housing. Although one system hasn't been proven to be advantageous over the other, Murphy Brown is converting in response to customer requests. No matter which system is used, we have a responsibility to animal welfare. 2 days before giving birth, we move our pregnant sows from the gestation barn to the farrowing barn. This is where the birthing process and the first few days of new piglets' lives take place. Each stall is designed for easy access to food and water for the sow, and ample room to run around for the piglets. The stalls also help facilitate birth, keep the sows comfortable, and protect the newborns from being crushed accidentally by the sows. The first milk piglets receive from their mother is called colostrum, and it contains natural antibodies and nutrients that newborns need to give them a healthy start. Their tails are also docked to prevent injury later in life. Males are also castrated at this time to prevent sexual maturity, which would alter the taste of the pork. All piglets also receive an iron shot to boost their immune system during their first week. Young pigs grow fast. 3 weeks after birth, they weigh in at 10 to 12 pounds. It's time to be weaned from their mothers and to move on to the nursery barn. Before a group of piglets arrive, their nursery is thoroughly washed and sanitized. Nursery workers use simple noisemakers to move piglets into their pens without physical contact or other stressful techniques. A nursery barn is designed to house approximately 40 to 45 piglets per pen for the duration of their stay. In the Murphy-Brown system, nurseries are typically owned and operated by independent farmers and their families. We call this arrangement contract growing. In contract growing, Murphy-Brown supplies the animals, feed, transportation, veterinary services, and record keeping. Our contract growers provide the modern facilities, day-to-day management, and general upkeep of the farm. Murphy-Brown takes the market risk, and the contract grower receives a predictable income stream, regardless of market conditions. During their 50-day stay at the nursery, piglets grow from approximately 12 pounds to about 50 pounds. They eat 3 different feed recipes, each matching their changing nutritional needs. After 50 days at the nursery, these feeder pigs are now ready to move on to the finishing barn. On a finishing farm, hogs grow to 270 pounds in approximately 24 weeks. As the hogs grow, they are individually monitored. Our contract growers follow a Murphy-Brown best management practice. Every pen, every pig, every day. By tending to each animal on a regular basis, they can tell when an animal feels good and when it doesn't. If an animal appears to be sick, it is moved to a separate pen to receive special attention. If the need arises, animal health products like electrolytes or aspirin can be administered through the animal's drinking water. If it's a more serious problem, a staff veterinarian can be called to diagnose the animal and prescribe treatment. Murphy-Brown staff veterinarians use antibiotics for 3 general purposes: to treat disease, prevent disease, and control disease. All of our products go through very rigorous testing by the Food and Drug Administration before they are actually approved for use in swine. They make sure they are safe for the pig, safe for the food supply, and safe for the environment before they are ever approved. After 24 weeks, at approximately 270 pounds, hogs are ready to go to market. Throughout their life cycle, these hogs have been kept safe, comfortable, and healthy. They are now on their way to provide safe, nutritious sources of protein for families and individuals around the world.
Okay, that is a video. It was a really quick overview of what goes on. One of the things that gets talked about in today's world a lot is sustainability, and I'll talk a little bit about that. One thing that's pretty sustainable in our system is the fact that pigs eat corn, turn corn into pork, if it's not turned into pork, what's left is turned into manure, and the manure is back to the field to fertilize the corn. The other thing that's really important to think about sustainability that sometimes gets overlooked today is that to be sustainable, your sales have to be higher than your expenses. Because if they're not, you don't stay sustainable very long. So many of the things we do, it has an economic decision linked to it to keep us financially sustainable. When they talked about how fast the pigs grow in that video, they talked about 3 weeks after they're farrowed, after they're born, they're about 12 pounds. And then they talked about the nursery stage, where they go to 50 pounds. And then they talked about finishing, where they go to 270. And all that, in its entirety, takes about 30 weeks. Okay. So we have them in Iowa from the point they are weaned, taken from the mother, until their market size, 270, 280 pounds. And we try to, through nutrition and genetics, we try to make that pretty speedy. Because every pound that they gain lowers the amount of cost that I have and keeps us sustainable. So time does matter to a hog. When we talk about pig production in general, one of our big keys is biosecurity. And biosecurity does 2 things. It tries to keep anything that would be a detriment to the pigs off the farm, and it tries to keep anything that might have happened and is in the farm from going to another farm. So with biosecurity, especially in our sow units, we go through a pretty rigorous procedure. We literally shower in. This is a picture of the point where you can see street shoes here. And I would sit there, kick off my street shoes with a piece of angle iron, so I'm dug into the heel, swing my feet over, and now you can see a different pair of shoes. Then I walk this way, and I head into a shower, or I take a complete shower. I strip down to showering. All those clothes stay on one side of the door. Shower in, and all the clothes I need are on the other side of the barn. It's a leap of faith that somebody has gotten the underwear clean. And once we're showered in, wet hair and all, that's how we enter our sow barns. We also are doing more and more of that in our finishing here in Iowa, because any kind of disease that comes in is detrimental to the pigs. It's detrimental to our costs. It's detrimental to our sustainability. So biosecurity is a huge concern for us. That's why we really don't give a lot of tours. There's many diseases like plain old influenza that I can give to a pig. It'll pass from me to the pig. So biosecurity is very important. It's so important that our trucks that transport those little babies that you saw, the ones that come off the pigs, those are separate trucks than the ones that take the pigs to the slaughter plant. The trucks that transport our baby pigs are washed after each load, and they're baked inside these large barns. 150 degree surface temperature for 8 minutes in the summer, for 10 minutes in the winter. Why longer in the winter?
Because it's colder.
Excuse me?
Because it's colder.
Because it's colder. Other big thing, most of the viruses that affect pigs live very well in cold, in snow, in ice. Will stay viable in all those things. University of Minnesota many years ago did experiments where they injected a snowball with a particular virus, slapped it on the fender of a truck, and successfully transported the virus to the next farm. So cold very much preserves the life of those viruses. The sun and the summertime helps us a great deal. So again, those baby pig trucks get washed, sanitized, and baked before they transport another set. A different truck than the one that takes them to the slaughter plant. Most of the trucks that you see with the big pigs in them are not the same. Some of the trucks you see have black plastic slats down the sides that close off the whole side of the truck. Usually that's a baby pig, and those slats are keeping it warm.
Question?
Yes.
What's the difference between a pig and a hog?
So, nothing.
Oh.
Nothing.
That's good to hear.
Pig and a hog, there's a weaned pig has just been removed from its mother. And in fact, there's many Spanish words that differentiate, like a cerditas is a small pig, but a cerda is a large pig. A sow is a female who has given birth at least once. A boar is an intact male. A gilt is a young female who has not yet given birth. And a barrow is on a handle with a wheel front. No, a barrow is a male that's been castrated. So like a steer. So from the beginning, how do we get the pigs? Well, we start with boars. When I first got into the pig business, we had live boars on the farm, and they mated with sows. And that's how we got pigs started. Today we use artificial insemination. Why? Well, it goes back to that sustainability question. How do I get the fastest growing pigs with really good meat quality that throw a large litter, have many babies? Part of that is the father's influence. So we test the fathers and we determine who are the best, and then we collect the semen from them. This young lady is reaching underneath and she's collecting semen from that boar. Just for your knowledge, this is what the business end of a boar looks like. And this is an insemination catheter. And what she's doing is she's got the end of that bore in her hand and is collecting the semen into a sterile container. But that's what the end of a bore looks like. This is what we use today. It's a little cheaper and easier to insert. But this is how we transfer the semen from a bag after the bore into the sow. Now, again, why do we do that? Well, we have, once that boar, when he does his business, if he's a really good boar, I can probably breed 5 sows with him because he's given me so many sperm that I can stretch it out a little bit. And so my best boars, remember the sustainability, fast growing, good pork, big litter, I can stretch him over more sows. I can give him to multiple sows. So it all starts with a boar stud, and this is how we collect and get that semen.
Right.
Yes.
One collection you could do over.
I could get
service
5.
sows.
I can get 5 or 6 from a good collection.
But then you can collect again.
I can collect him 5 days out of 7.
Okay.
So that I can get many, many out of him. And he's in a special barn with just boars. We call it a boar stud. There's nothing but boars in that barn. Then we get our sows bred and they gestate. In these open barns, you can see these stalls, that's where they eat. Because when we drop the feed out of that container, down that tube, if I just had a great big open spot, sows are pretty brutal. And at this stage of the game, she's weighing 375. And if she's in there with a young one or a smaller one, she will absolutely gulp hers down. Anybody own a Labrador? You know how they eat? Anyway, she will gulp hers down and then she'll drive the other smaller sow away. So these individual slots are where they run in when they know the feed's coming, and then they can relax. The other thing I'd like to point out is notice how all the pigs are on the outside, nobody's laying in the middle. They're either laying against something or against another sow. That's what pigs do. You put 2, 3 pigs in a pen, they will go to the most comfortable place, but they will want to lay against something or against somebody else, unless they're really hot or they're really cold. But this is the way pigs lay no matter what size they are. So they actually want to be with each other. Any question on gestation? So she's in there for 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. It's easy to remember. Once she's bred, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. And then she has little pigs. We move her into what we call a farrowing barn. Farrowing is the process of giving birth in the pig world. That's what it's called, farrowing. In this barn, we have individual areas where each sow is, and then we have heat lamps to keep the piglets warm. Because the piglet wants it to be about 90 degrees, and the sow wants it to be about 65. Each individual stall has a feed drop, and this is how we clean and sanitize before the sows come in. Here's the feeder where we hand feed her until she's up and going, eating well. Then she gets it delivered automatically. She's in there for 3 weeks, nursing her piglets. We hope the litter's about 12 or 13. When I first started in this business, the average litter size was 8 to 9, and that's 1986. And today the average litter size is 13. Genetics, selecting the boars. Go ahead.
What is a runt?
A runt, good question. A runt is a pig that is small at birth and is having trouble catching up because he started out small. And he's small at birth for any number of reasons. One could be his genetic makeup. The other could be when he was inside the uterus, he could have had a poor attachment to the uterus and not been nourished as well while he developed. And then when he comes out, these pigs pick a nipple when they're born. And the best ones, believe it or not, are towards the front of mom. And the back ones are the poorest milking nipples. And I don't know, I'm being recorded, so I'm not going to use the phrase we call it, but we used to say he looks like he got a bad faucet because he turned out to be a runt. Any follow-up question?
Well, do you keep the runs or nurture them?
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll keep growing them. They'll take longer to get.
You don't give them to
Today.
someone named Fern, do you?
No. She doesn't lay in the gully either. Then sometimes pigs go to a nursery after 3 weeks of age. In our system in Iowa, they come to wean to finish. I'll have a slide in a minute. But this nursery is would be a second stage that they go to from 3 weeks till they're 10 weeks old, 10 weeks old. And as you can see, these employees have all changed into our uniform. Blue scrubs, red t-shirt, that's us. Or green bibs, red t-shirt, that's us. These are all these diets are getting fed automatically through a feed system. These pigs will eat 5 different diets in here because at first they need a really dense, highly nutrition. For every little bite they take, it needs to be high in nutrition. Their stomachs aren't very big, they can't hold much. We've got to pack the power in there. As they get a little older, they don't need quite as high a level. I have been eating a high level of nutrition.
Now, I see 3 people working there. Is that is there a standard number of people you'll need to?
Usually there would be, the third is not, usually it's 1 or 2. 1 or 2 going to be working in there.
Do you keep the runts separate from the others?
Yes,
So that they-
yes, within here, good question, thank you, and I should have done that. But yeah, we'll have 1 or 2 or 3 pens in here that'll take the smallest pigs or pigs that are ill and are being treated because they're falling behind and are ill. Wean to finish is what we do in Iowa, so they come to us at 3 weeks old, 12 pounds, 15 pounds. And they come up here and they stay in our barn until they're 270. We don't do the nursery step. So they come into a very large pen and they spend their time there. This is these are Iowa pigs, Iowa photograph. To keep them warm, each pen has an LP brooder to keep them nice and toasty because early on they need warmth. And they stay without the nursery, they stay in this for 26 weeks. So they're 3 weeks when they're born and weaned, then 26 weeks, they're 270 pounds, and out they go. Looks like you have.
Do you identify each pig so you know how old they are and
We do
what
not.
their history is?
We do not because we bring them in as a whole group of the same age.
Okay.
I would call it a cohort. So that group of pigs will come in, we'll farrow enough sows to fill a barn.
Okay, when you take the pigs to the finishing barn, do you take the runts along with the others, or do you fill a barn full of runts?
No, we do not fill a barn full of runs.
Okay.
The small pigs go right with the big pigs. They get separated out. When I said this took 26 weeks to do this, the first pigs are gone in about 17 weeks, the fastest growing of the bunch. They're done in 17. It'll take the full 26 to get those runts out. And some runts don't make it. Some expire. So moving on to some of the feed part. So Smithfield, we buy about 150 million bushels of grain a year for all our pigs. So Kevin, you're my math whiz, but you'll trust me here. At 200 bushel to the acre corn, take 158 million divided by 200. I'll tell you how many acres we covered.
800.
And then we took,
800,000? Maybe right.
and then if I divide it by, there's 640 acres in a square mile. So he's going to do it for me. So 158 million divided by 200.
Yep. Divided by 200. Divided by, so we got 790.
Acres.
Yeah, 790,000 acres.
790,000 acres divided by 640, which is how many square miles are in an acre.
So you You got 1,234.
1,234 divided by 568, which is how many square miles are in Clay County. I had to look that up.
2.17.
So if you planted all of Clay County, every inch, plowed down Spencer, planted all of Clay County in corn, Smithfield would have purchased 2.7 Clay counties worth of corn. That's how much we rely on grain farmers. That's why we're so closely interrelated to grain farmers. 2.7 Clay counties, if every inch was corn, will use that much corn. So we're like a big customer of theirs, but we really need them too. I didn't do the bean number, but he's probably running it already. How many beans?
38 sections
38 sections,
of beans.
38 square miles
Yeah.
of soybeans. So it's a big impact.
How's that communication going between the two entities then? Are you having meetings that are saying this is what we need, or?
Well, because the purchases happen throughout the country, it's not so much, I would not say it's like that. It's a capitalist system. So we offer a price and they can decide to sell to us. We could offer a price ahead, they could decide to sell to us. We happen to store grain in November. We store enough to get us through right now. We're going to start going into our storage pile right now, April, because this is generally when grain prices are the highest. We're getting the end. But we don't really have, it would take a lot of growers to make up this number. So it's more of a capitalist give and take. I'm just trying to illustrate this is how much one hog company buys in corn. It's incredible when you just think about the ground it covers.
It's all a competition. I mean, you're competing against an ethanol plant, you're competing other.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
It's all a competition.
Absolutely.
So do elevators deliver feed, corn to you then, or?
Most of our delivery here comes either by rail or by individual farmer and truck.
So you have feed mills, you can, where you.
I'll get to, yep,
Okay.
we got mills all over the place and I can kind of get to that. But I'm going down the path, and here's where she starts to get feed to the pig. This is what a feed mill looks like in ours. That's our Algona mill. And here's a feed truck getting loaded, and I'll get a little more detail on that because it's interesting to me. This truck's being filled from the top, that little brown bag, that truck's gonna pull forward and the feed is gonna pour out of that into his compartments. This is what a feed truck looks like. You've probably seen them on the road. But what you might not know, every one of those little levers is a section of that truck. Can you see the little weld seam there maybe? Every one of those sections holds 3 tons of feed.
Oh.
Okay? So if I've got 9 cranks, and I didn't count it, but this is gonna hold anywhere from 24 to 27 tons of feed. Okay? Go ahead.
So when you say feed, is that corn kernels? Is that?
Get to that in just a
Okay,
second.
all right.
Good question. So the truck gets filled from the top, like I told you, and then there's this motor is driving a big auger that's on the bottom. It's going to convey that feed back to here, and then up into an arm and into the feed bin. So every one of these, it could be a different feed. Because it's, now why 3 tons? Why 3 tons? Well, our mixers hold 3 tons. So every batch of feed we make is a 3-ton batch. Now why is that? I don't know. I don't know, but that's where we are today. But as you see these trucks go down the road, it's not one great big thing, it's sections. And each section is a different, could be going to a different farm, could be going to a different size pig. Now, let's do feed here. When I say feed, I'm talking about this. This is pig feed. Now, what strikes you first?
Color?
Color. Very good.
They're pelleted.
They're pelleted. They're in little pellets. Color is because this is an early ration, goes to a younger pig. This is an older ration. Now people often ask me, why the pellets? And it goes back to that question on sustainability. Now I'm going to ask for a quick volunteer, Barb.
Oh, gee, thanks.
So my wife let me borrow her mortar and pestle. I'm going to ask Barb to grind up a little bit of this pellet. And I'm going to get to why the pellets. So if you could mash that down good and hard, Barb.
Is all your feed pelleted?
No.
Okay. No.
A very small portion of it is ground. Now this is traditionally, if you thought 30 years ago, this is what pig feed looked like. Now, so why not ground, all ground? Why do the pellet thing? Have we got our ground down quite yet? Okay. Yes, that'll be fine. Now, now who wants to feel pig feed? Nobody. Okay, just roll that. I'm going to put a little bit in your hand. And I want you to describe the texture. And I want you to remember the texture as you roll it in your hand, because I'm going to give you the other stuff in a second. So what do you feel? You feel a little sharp granules like?
Yeah, it's gritty.
It's gritty, yep. It's like table
It's
salt
probably-
maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, and within that feed we've got,
Is it my imagination or is there like a little oil content to it?
yeah, it's not your imagination.
Okay.
Not your imagination at all. So, now you've remembered that, now you can give that to your neighbor, you can throw it away to me. I'm making a mess.
Okay.
Now, remember that consistency, please. Darn near spilled my whole. Now I'm going to give you some of the pellets that Barb
Okay.
ground up.
Oh, same color.
Yep. I should have done a better job of grinding it. But that should feel a little finer.
And it looks a little finer.
It is.
Yeah.
Now,
Oil?
it's a little finer.
It's not as noticeably oily as the
Now, I'm going to just imagine for a second your flour bin in your kitchen. Okay? That's ground really fine, right? And if you dig down in your flour bin, pretty soon you could dig all the way almost to the bottom of the bin and the sides would stay stuck to the top, right? Okay, remember that. Now, back to my sustainability. I need the pig to grow fast and I need to be efficient with it. The finer I grind this, the more he can digest every little bit of it. The finer it's ground, the more effectively it's digested and turned into pork. Well, then Ray just grind it fine. Well, it's got to flow out of that truck and down those big tanks. And remember, we just talked about your flour in your kitchen. And remember how that flour won't flow? It'll stick to the sides. If I grind the feed very, very fine, that's what happens on the farm. It sticks to the sides of those tanks. So each little granule in the pellet is smaller than the granule in the ground feed, so that the pig will digest it more effectively, more efficiently. Now, why is the other reason I use pellets? Pellets allow me to add other things into the ration that won't grind real well. So I can recycle bakery byproducts. I can recycle fish meal. I can recycle other items that we haven't consumed as humans, and I can put it in pig feed. And because I can put it in that pellet, it will stay there, it'll flow, and we'll eat it. Now, we balance all those rations for the pig's needs. You said you felt a little bit of slipperiness. We add some fat. Fat is energy. Corn is energy, fat is energy. And a pig is very much like you and me. Kevin's going to talk about sheep, but a pig's digestive system and our digestive system is remarkably similar. And pigs are omnivorous. They eat everything, like me. They eat it all. Meat, bugs, worms. You put it in front of a pig, they'll pretty much eat. So this is all about feed, and there's a huge amount of research and development that goes into getting feed to pigs to make them grow quickly and efficiently. After it's done being feed, it goes to the pigs, we end up with manure. It's stored underneath the building in general. Why? Well, that's a very cheap way to do it. I don't add rain to it, which dilutes it because I want to use it later for fertilizer. And I can access it quickly. This is a manure pump, an agitator. It hooks to a tractor here and then it goes down into a pit and stirs up the manure because there's solids in that manure, and the solids are some of the goodies that I want for my crop. But Ray, why is it such an intense smell? Why is it so? I don't remember Grandpa's pigs being like that. Some of the bacteria that are in manure pits are anaerobic. That means they don't want oxygen around them. And some of the byproduct of that bacteria working on that manure is hydrogen sulfide, rotten egg smell. So that's part of the intensity of that pig manure. But that pig manure is valuable nutrient for the field and goes towards the growing of the crop. This is the nutrient management plan for one farm. So a CAFO has to have this plan to be able to legally spread the manure.
What's a CAFO?
Thanks. Confined animal feeding operation. This plan describes in detail the amount produced, the testing of the manure and what its nitrogen, phosphorus, potash values are. It describes how it will be put in. It describes where it will be put in, down to the maps of the fields that this grower will spread it on. Every map, every field that he wants to put the manure on is in this plan. This plan is totally renewed every 4 years with the DNR. And this allows him to legally apply liquid manure to his farmland.
So that's the responsibility of the landowner to,
Yes, because he's using it to grow his crop. He's using it to grow his crop. These are NRC, getting into the jargon here. This tells you the slope of the land, how it's going to be applied to the land, what the particular runoff of the land might be. These, again, plat books, which are the delineations of the owned land within the townships of the particular county. But this is a nutrient management plan that's revised. If he decides to sell some manure to Kevin, or if Kevin decides to buy some from him, Kevin would be in addition to this, and he'd have to revise it again, because Kevin's a new land that would be applied. Kevin has to agree to take it, and he has to add that to his plan, and that would be a revision next year to the plan. It'd be another set of pages in here so that Kevin could receive some of it. An often not understood part of Hogwarts. Real quick about how we do things in the Midwest with Smithfield. We have feed mills in Algona, Nevada, Missouri, Yuma, Colorado, and Milford, Utah. These are the ones where we have company feed mills. We also have feed mills that we use that we hire to grind our feed for us because we have so many pigs spread out so many places. But these are some of our Midwest, what we call our Midwest feed mills. We have packing plants. They're the blue stars. Crete, Nebraska, Denison, Sioux Falls. This is Pine Ridge in Des Moines. This is the Carroll plant attached to Denison, Monmouth, and Milan. That's where Smithfield takes their pigs to. Here's the take-home. This is the money shot. You get whole muscle pork, like you buy pork loin. This is how my mother cooked it. Well done at 160.
And tough as can be.
Vulcanized. Again, not sausage, whole muscle cut, pork chop. Buy yourself a pork loin, $1.98 a pound. Slice it into 3/4 inch slots. Get yourself a little thermometer, digital instant read thermometer. Pull it at 145 or 150. Juicy pork. I once went out to Washington with Iowa pork producers. We set up a grill. We gave out free samples, and the people from Washington, D.C. wanted to know what was our seasoning. They wanted to know what magic we had added to this stuff because, gosh, this was the best pork they ever had in their life. And it was nothing other than not overcooking pork. Pork's a delicate meat. It's a delicate meat. Now, if you want pulled pork for your pork barbecue sandwiches, that's a different story. You can cook that to 180. If you want to pull it right, you need to cook it to 180, 185, so it'll pull. But these delicate cuts, your tenderloins, your loins, your chops, this is where you need to be to get the most out of your pork chop. That was a lot. Any other questions?
Years ago we had pigs, but in the buildings you have the slats. Of course, I understand that's for the manure to go down, but does it ever harm their feet? Walking on that all the time, that's the only
Actually,
place they could be?
the slats, they're not perfectly smooth because they slip if they'd be perfectly smooth. They have what's called a broom finish. So they're no rougher than really the sidewalk out here on the side. So to answer your question, no. Now, what we can happen is if we got somebody that doesn't close the gate, and that's a steel gate, and the pigs now have a new toy, and they take that gate and go back and forth and back and forth and back. Pretty soon they'll bust a chunk out of that, and now we could have a spot in the slat that's too wide, and they could get their foot down in and get caught. So we'll repatch that with hand cement in between turns. But actually, no. If it would, even on those little baby pigs, it's not really that rough at all. Oh, the bottom of their foot is pretty rubbery-ish. The hoof is hard, but the pad is probably as tough, maybe a little tougher than your dog's pad on your dog's foot. So, pregnant for 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. After that, 26 weeks until it goes to town. We want to be, go ahead.
Do you test a sow for pregnancy, or how do you
We
have it taken?
actually use ultrasound.
Okay.
A handheld ultrasound, and we'll check them at about 26 days post-breeding to see if she's what we call open meaning not pregnant. And we have ultrasounds that are handheld that we can see. Now, it's all you can see is a dark spot. It doesn't look like anything you'd recognize as a pig. But we do use ultrasound. And the other thing we do is, I told you earlier, the boars are all in their own barn by themselves, but within the gestation barn, back where the sows were, we have to have a couple boars so that we can walk them in front of the sows, so that the sows, if the sows are in season, that they will signal to us through their actions that they are ready to be bred. So we will pass that boar in front of those sows at that same time, and so we check at 26 days. If she looks like she's not pregnant, we'll move her to we'll move her, put a paint mark on her, and then we'll make sure the boar goes past her, because at 28 weeks, she's getting ready to maybe come back into heat.
There were paint stripes in the early slides, blue and green. What's the?
They were just marking the pigs either because the little baby pigs, it was so they knew that they all got a shot,
Just keep tabs.
or just to know that you did it. At the end, when we send them to town, before they get loaded on a truck, we'll paint them to say, we just don't open the pen and send this whole pen. We take the biggest ones in the pen. Remember I said the first ones will be done at 17 weeks? So we'll pick those first, get the biggest ones. And then,
Is there too much weight?
yes, there can be too much weight. They can get too heavy. And we get less money for them if they're too light or too heavy.
Is that marketplace, or is there a taste difference that people are perceiving?
Say that again.
Is that marketplace stipulation that yours?
Yes, it is, the muscles, okay, so if I have a 310-pound pig instead of 270, I've got a 50 to 60-pound ham,
Ah, okay, size.
okay?
Gotcha.
Nobody buys that, so I gotta piece that out, do something else with it. So it's a marketplace stipulation.
What's the lifespan of a sow and a boar? And what happens to them at the end of their life?
Sows will have about 6 litters and before they're gone, and then they'll go, and when you're eating sausage, that's an older pig because their muscles are old, they're not as tender, so it's a ground up product. Boars will stay around, depending on how good they are, they won't stay around more than 3 years. But then boar meat is really stinky, really stinky. And so boar meat can be used in things like pepperoni, very highly spiced items. Capicola ham, no, that is not boar meat. That's just been spiced ham, but pepperoni would be. That's why they said early in the film that to castrate the pigs when they're young, because if they stay as a boar, their meat will stink. And when you fry it, you can smell it when you cook it. And boars are rank. They smell. It's all part of their pheromone attractiveness. Somehow the sows like it. Anything? Go ahead.
The pen situation, the same group of animals stay together for the duration of this growing
Yes.
situation. My frame of reference would be dogs. Is there a pack mentality amongst this
When you say pack,
behavioral?
okay, there is a pecking order.
Okay, yeah.
There's definitely a pecking order. The biggest, strongest pig chooses where it sleeps,
Okay.
and it chooses different places depending on the weather.
Gets to the food truck first.
It wants the warm spot in the winter, it wants the cool spot in the summer, and it feeds when it wants to. The reason we pull the runt pigs that you were asking about, and the reason we move them to another pen is because they'll get shoved to the point where they can't eat. So they get put in their own pen. So I had to do my advertisement here. You didn't know this was going to be, yeah. I have to do so I have my Farm Bureau advertisement. Pigs and land betters.
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Besides food for consuming, are there other parts of the animal used for other things? Like
You
skin
bet.
or whatever?
You bet. Heart valves. The humans get pig heart valves. Heparin, which is a clotting agent. We have an entire division that pulls heparin off the pigs. Don't ask me from which organ it comes, but it's a medical agent. These are bags of dog chew toys.
I saw
Yes,
that. That's
yes.
smart. Yes.
And if you ever,
Pigskin gloves?
huh?
Gloves?
Pigskin gloves, you
Do
bet.
they still do that? Okay.
Yes, you can buy them up on cars.
Okay.
Pigskin gloves. Different countries eat different things. We have a thing that we call specialty meats, which are items that we don't consume in the U.S. but get consumed elsewhere. There's a thing called ear bases that the Filipinos love. It's a cut that comes from behind the temple of the ear around the back of the head and here. It's one great big piece. Little meat on both ends, and Filipinos love it. Chinese love ears. If you look in your dog treat bags, you will find that those ears either have a hole in them, because we marked them with a hole, or they have a tattoo on them for an identification, because the Chinese market doesn't want the holes or the tattoos. So they go to dog chews. Yeah, those are some of the main deals we do. You can see that brooder in the background again, that infrared heater over those little pigs. Yes?
As far as breeding the sows, if, say, you thought this group was bred and then you checked them and some of them weren't, how long do you wait I mean, can you try to rebreed them?
Yes.
And how long do you wait in between?
Yes, we'll wait for the next heat cycle, and when we bring the boar by, if she's receptive, we'll breed her again. We'll try her 3 times. If on the 3rd time she doesn't take, then she's headed out.
Headed out, you mean like to market?
Yep. She's off the farm. She is not a sustainable sow. The expenses of feeding her are not going to be covered by the profitability of her piglets, because she has none.
You usually end up with like 12 to 13 little pigs, or are there some that maybe don't have
Right.
quite as many?
So her first litter, she won't have that many. We average 13.6 pigs alive per litter. And what do you do with 0.6 of a pig? I'm not sure. It's my statistical joke. The first litter, she won't have that many, and she get a break. As long as she breeds and lays down and has some, it's all right. But if she comes back with 2 consecutive litters under performance, then she's headed out.
All right, we have sheep. Yes. So I'm going to get this up for you, Kevin, okay?
Were you always interested in pigs, or how did you get from Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I never went over that. Yeah, I just loved pigs from when I was a little boy. I used to go to the state fair in Pennsylvania and go to the pig pens, and that's what I studied in college. Graduated, my wife and I both graduated from Penn State, and yeah, pigs.
All right. Well, I went to Iowa State and I was gonna raise pigs. But, we're playing now, go back to start. And I graduated from Iowa State in '98, and pigs were 8 cents. That's what you could get for pigs. So I decided, well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I could see pigs were going to a corporate, there isn't many independent pig producers anymore. And so that's where our family decided we were going to go into the sheep industry. It's a easier, lower cost to get started versus cattle or anything else like that. So really about 2000 we started raising sheep. I want to play here for a second. Get going. So this is where we lamb. If you ever drive out on 4th Street and head toward Schaumburg Park, and if you turn at Schaumburg Park, we're right there in the corner, and we have several hoop buildings and one insulated building, and it is 50 by 168, and that is where all our mothers are brought into to lamb. Here's a leg here, isn't there?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and so this is our lambing barn. This is like an overview. So all our mothers will come in to these areas here. We call these drop areas, and that's where they are. Probably we bring them in about a week before they're going to have babies, and so they can walk around in here, have babies, whatever they want to do. So every day they'll go out here, and there's a line of bunks out here and a line of bunks out here, and they will be fed with a feed wagon, and we will feed them. At this point in time, we feed them corn and alfalfa hay, and so I'm sure you guys know what corn is, but this is what we feed them. Is this hay product and corn?
So do you grow that corn and alfalfa?
Yep, we grow that corn and we grow that alfalfa.
Careful that way.
And so it's a simple ration. It's compact. It's easy for them to consume. And so in this area, they'll drop their lambs, and these are all. So in the sheep industry, these are called jugs. So the little pens, they're 5 by 5 pens. The mother and their lambs will go into, and they'll stay in here for 48 hours is what we. And so when them lambs and mother in the jugs, we'll check and see if her udder's good and the lambs are nursed up nicely, and we call process them. So every lamb is given a tag, and it's called an IED tag. So we can use a scanner, so we can identify this lamb from birth to market, or if we keep her as a replacement. So we have ewes that are probably 8 to 10 years old that have the same tag from when they were born, and we use a scanner, and we can press a button, scan, and it'll give us all our information on what that lamb is, and where it's come from and everything else. And so at that point in time, we make Instead of barrels, we have wethers. So we band all our sheep, and we make the males, we castrate the males, and they become what we call wethers. It's the same reason, it's meat quality. And then the ewe lambs, we leave them the same. The only thing we do is we band their tails, and that's more of a sanitation issue, because if you know what a sheep's tail without, it's really long, it gets dirty and from the manure and stuff. So then after 48 hours, they'll move in called these little small grouping pens. And so all these ewes and lambs, there'll be about 8 ewes and their lambs in these pens. And that is where we can determine, okay, this mother can take care of its babies with all these other ewes. So that we're really trying to imprint the lamb onto the mother, because she's got to be able to, they're not confined in a pen through their lactation period to the lambs. So we have to know that they can find their lambs in a group. And so it's just a constant rotation through these jugs into here and then out. You'll see later on into some bigger hoop buildings. And so we usually, like this building here, we can get 400 ewes, and there are 400 ewes to lamb in here. And we will lamb them in a 17-day period. So that's why we do 17 days. Ewe's gestation period. So every 17 days a ewe comes into heat so that she can be bred. So we usually figure we're going to get about 85% of these ewes bred. So we're going to have to, just short of 500 ewes, we're going to have to breed to fill this barn. So we'll put in the bucks we need to breed those 500 ewes in 17 days, figuring that we're going to get 85% bred. And so we'll do that, and then we'll take a 2-week break to clean out the barn, get everything sanitized, ready to go for the next group, is what we do. We'll do that 3 to 4 times in the spring. We'll start January 20th is what we always start. And you might ask, why start January 20th? It's cold. Well, sheep are called seasonal breeders. They're like a deer. They're really similar to a deer. So they breed. That's when they breed off the longest day length. So 60 days after the longest day of the year, ewes come into natural heat and start cycling. So we'll start doing that. And so we repeat this process all the way through, over and over again, it seems like after a while, but it isn't. We'll fast forward here. We'll get a shot of the barn and the sheep. So that's what it looks like inside there. So this is the setup of the barn. There's the barn's divided in half, so the same is on the other half. And everything in here, we put the barn up, and these are all jugs we build ourselves and stuff. And then to make things a little more convenient for us, we have kind of a neat factor. We put water tubes in, and so the sheep are always watered all the time. And then when they're in the jugs, they're fed by hand. So I don't know if you can see there's a little feeder there, and they're getting corn and hay again. And so that's how we do it. As you can see, there's a gate here too that's separating. We try to divide the barn into 4 pens, just for if a ewe has a lamb, it's easier to figure out whose is whose, because there's some mismothering. You'll have one ewe try to claim everything. So
What's the temperature of the barn?
So this barn right here, we're probably about 45 degrees. We don't want it too warm. For us, heat will have higher humidity. We'll get more diseases, more mastitis, more stuff like that, more scours. So if we can keep it cool, like you said, your viruses are on cool. We want it cold because we don't get any scours or that kind of stuff. We want it cold out. So, and we don't want it too warm in there that when they go outside, it's such a shock to their system, because this was taken a few years ago. As you'll see, there's actually snow, but this year wasn't so bad. But so that is what we're doing in there. We lamb them all out in there. And then from there, I'll fast forward through some of this. This was a little longer presentation before. And Ray took all my time, so.
Yeah, I did.
Let's go here.
You just hold it all the time.
Oh, here's an interesting aspect of it. So this, for us, so every ewe we'll have ewes have triplets, quads, and quints. But every ewe will only ever get to keep 2 lambs on her because of a ewe has 2 udders or 2 teats, and so that's all she really can nurse. You can keep more on them, but it's just you'll have one that'll lag behind and stuff. And so to combat that, we'll artificially rear these lambs. So right now, this is a little pen. Like our last group, we have 120 bottle lambs. We'll have usually on a group of 400. That's about what we'll have. And so they're all artificially reared, and they're after 30 days they'll be on solid feed and ready to go. But that's how. Otherwise, we would have runts and stuff that wouldn't be able to keep up with the groups. So we do that.
Are your sheep all white face, or do you have any black face, or?
Yep. So here's where they're coming out to eat. So all the mothers are a breed that are called polypay. It was invented in the United States in the middle 70s, and it's a 3-way or a 4-way cross between Dorset, Finn, Rambouillet, and Targhee. And so each one was used for a certain purpose. So like your Finn are very prolific. You'll have tons of lambs out of them. Your Dorsets are really good milkers, so that's why they added that to the breed. Then you have your Rambouillets have longevity, and your Targhees were added for wool quality, which is really limited now. But as you can see, so most of them are, there was a black-faced one, that's my son's, but most of them are, our maternal line are white-faced ewes. And with those white-faced ewes, we will cross onto them a black-faced buck. And why we do that is, so these white-faced ewes weigh about 175 to 185 pounds. So they're a smaller sheep. And so the black-faced ewes we're going to use are going to weigh right around 250 to 300 pounds. So their offspring, it'll make them grow faster and get to market sooner. And so something I thought of here, so they're eating hay. You couldn't feed a pig hay, he wouldn't grow on hay. So a pig is one gut. So a ewe has 4 chambers. And so what it does, it'll chew that food up, chew it up, send it down, chew it back up, and do it again. Really, the ewe isn't, it's kind of confusing. A ewe really isn't using hay as energy. It is actually digesting the bugs in its stomach. So that's where it's getting a lot of its energy. So there's bacteria in the ewe's gut, and that ewe is actually digesting the bacteria and using that as energy. And that bacteria is digesting your fiber, your hay and other fibrous stuff. And so that's how they can live on less quality feeds and stuff. So, any questions so far?
When a baby lamb is born,
Yep.
does it have any fur on it at all?
Wool? It has. Yep.
Does it have any wool on it?
Yep. It has a
Really?
full coat of
I
wool.
just wondered if it was like a calf,
Nope. It has a full. I mean, it'll grow more, but so the lamb's wool is, I think it's 3 times has 3 times the ability to keep it warm than like a ewe's wool. It's a lot finer and a lot thicker coat. And so, yep, it's born. Actually, that is if you have a ewe have lambs earlier, that is a sign it's early. The lamb will have very little wool. So all the wool is grown in the last
I had
5
a
to 6.
farmer one time when I was teaching Sunday school, stop at Spencer, bring me his baby lamb. It wasn't 2 days old when he brought it.
Mm-hmm.
And my little kids in Sunday school class just loved that.
Yeah, I bet.
I thought that was pretty special.
Yeah, they are. Our kids have grown up with them. It's been they've liked the bottle lambs are always their favorite. So
Do they help you with this too?
yeah, I I guess my oldest is graduating college this year, so it's all through until they, of course, gone away to college. I have a middle boy is going to come back and farm, and he's at SDSU right now, and so he's got just a half a year left, I guess. Now he's going to a 2-year program there, and so he's going to come back and help. And then my youngest is a girl, and she's a senior in high school, and she helps begrudgingly. It's more of a forced labor for her. But.
And are you near where you grew up, your family farm?
Yep.
Or are you actually the same farm?
No, this is about a quarter mile away.
Okay.
So right here, this is where. So this is these are lambs actually. So these are lambs at about 4 months old. So they're just about ready for market. So we start marketing lambs from 4 to 6 months. So they should be out in 6 months. They should be ready to go to market. And so we start out our baby lambs. We need this is soybean meal and corn, but for baby lambs it needs to be finer particle size because they cannot consume corn and whole pellets. They just do not like. They like that smaller particle size. So for 42 days they get that feed right there. And that is fed in feeders similar to this, but the ewes will be in the same pen. So we have we call creeps. So we have bars in front of them, so only the lambs can go in and eat, and the ewes cannot go in there and eat because they sit there and eat it all. So once they get weaned, we're going to switch them to these type of feeders here, and this will be the protein we use. And we mix this with the corn that I just handed around. That is mixed at a 1-to-4 ratio when they're first weaned, and that is about, so that was passed around there is 20% protein. And then once we've moved them to here, we're going to go to a 16% protein. So this is 16% of the ration is this, and the rest is whole corn. And so we don't have to grind our feed or anything. Sheep are our grazers. So if you have a lamb die or something and you post it and check its stomach, the feed in its stomach will look like this. It'll chew it up and it'll look like this. But we couldn't just feed sheep this or even this. So we get by with it by bedding with corn stalks and stuff. So they're going to consume them corn stalks to make them, because they're a true ruminant, and that they actually eat a lot of the corn stalks in the bedding. So some people have put lambs on like slatted buildings and stuff. Well, they have to add some type of roughage to that feed at a certain age of the lambs. So.
And you were saying a percentage for this. Was that determined? Are you deciding as? No,
it's a good question. This is called a Parker pellet, they call it. So a professor from, I believe, Wisconsin, did trial studies, and then this is the pellet he came up with in the, I think it was late 70s, and they've tweaked it a little bit, but it's still the same formula.
So all sheep farmers will probably use that?
A lot of them do. It's just certain, like if you're buying it from a name brand company. So I belong to, it's called Pipestone Lamb and Wool. It's actually a college up in Minnesota. It's in Pipestone, Minnesota. And we as a group, it's an educational thing. And so this here is one of the formulas that they've given out to us to use. The creep there is the same way. It's one of the formulas. And so then, there's not a ton, like he's talking about research on hogs and stuff, there's not a ton of research done on sheep, and so a lot of it that has been done has been through like members of of the producers, different ways to feed sheep and stuff. And so we're going to start we weigh all these lambs then. We'll run them across the scale and we'll weigh every one. And so we want to sell our lambs ideally at about 135 to 140 pounds is what the market we're going to try to hit. And all our lambs are sold. We contract with a packer out of Denver, Colorado. So as a group, we sell them approximately 40,000 lambs as a group. And there's, I guess, what do we have now? We're up to about, I think there's 110 producers in our group. and we'll sell them lambs out through the years. But one of the reasons why we got a contract with them is we lamb in January, February, and most people out west lamb in March and April, and then they send them out on grass into the mountains, and so their lambs come back and are ready to be sold in September, October, November, December. Well, our lambs start in June, July, August, and there's a very, the market, there isn't much of lambs to be slaughtered at that time. So that is one of the reasons our lambs are sought after from the Midwest, because they're ready at a different time than the ones out west. So.
And the purpose of the meat?
Yep, these are all sold for meat. So I think we produce 25% of the lamb. The United States produces 25% of the lamb that we consume in the United States. The other 75% is imported. So here's a quiz. This rarely anybody gets this one right. What country in the world produces the most lamb?
Ireland?
New Zealand.
Wrong.
Australia.
Wrong.
United States,
China.
China.
Yes, but they consume it all. So it's like Australia, on the other hand, is the biggest exporter of sheep. So the United States sheep, we have like 5.1 or 2 million lambs and ewes. So we have about, I think, right around 300 million ewes in the United States. So in the 70s, there was 35 million. In the 50s, there was around 55 million. And so a lot of it is the Western producers have a lot more restrictions on them now. They can't, grazing rights have been limited for them out west. And so a lot of them, that's where they've shrunk down. So actually, I just got it, Iowa right now is the 8th largest sheep producing state in the United States, which is, I think when I started probably 20 years ago, we were like maybe 14th, 15th, but it's grown in this area and stuff. And what else do we got here?
Is something different done to raise them if it's for their wool then?
Yep, that's one of the problems, right? The wool is pretty much worthless right now. I mean, it used to be I'd sell it for about $1 a pound, and we'd shear about 8 to 9 pounds off each ewe. And so then you could easily pay for the shears, and then you'd have some left over. Now it's down to about 10 cents a pound. So it used to always get shipped out to, it shipped to China, all our wool would and stuff, and it's just the cleaning of it and everything. It takes a lot of water, it takes a lot of it's just an environmental thing, more or less. It takes a lot of resources to do, and so synthetic fibers are cheaper and that kind of thing. Yep. So that is the reason. As you can see here, if you can look here, these are we call a speckled lamb. So this is a cross between our polypay ewes and our Hamp or Suffolk bucks, and these will grow faster than these just straight white-faced lambs here that are just purebred polypay. And those are.
And you said about the tags already, but what's the information you can get from their tags?
So the sheep industry, every lamb has to have an identification to it. So if something, say it goes through a sale barn and it's slaughtered and something comes up wrong with it, they can track that back right to where it came from. So every lamb has to have, it's called your flock ID. So everybody, like I have, mine's starts with Iowa, IA, and then a number, and that's my flock ID. And that's on every tag. And then where I'm at, it has about, I think it's 9 digits. It's 4 digits, it's your Iowa code, and then the 5 behind it is identification of that individual lamb. So.
As a meat industry in the United States, is the meat product going to?
It's staying in the United States.
But are there pockets of?
Yep, that's a good question. So
it's worth your life to buy lamb here.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, East Coast, it's big. It's your ethnic population, Jewish, even a lot of Muslim. It's actually, so the United States, I think, before COVID, it was like 1.5 pounds was consumed in the United States per capita, and now it's over 3 pounds per capita is consumed now. It's really, the younger generations are eating a lot more of it. We're just not being able to produce enough for them. So imports, our percentage of the United States lamb is less, but the sheep is the same. It's just being consumed at a higher level, so.
Question.
Yep.
You mentioned that wool is not a big money maker.
Yep.
So you don't grow them for wool. Are they sheared before they're slaughtered, or do the wool stay on forever?
Good question. So we shear all our ewes about 30 days before they're gonna lamb, because we want that to be clean all around her so that lamb can nurse and not be sucking on dirty wool and stuff. And the lambs here, these lambs were born in September. So we do breed some of ours, so we'll breed them in January, we'll turn around and breed them in April, and they'll lamb in September. We'll turn around and breed them for like May and June, a certain percentage are used. So these lambs here weren't sheared because it's cold, we shear our lambs to help them grow. That lamb wool is very, very dense and it really keeps them warm. So any lambs that are not going to get sold by June, we shear. And so come here, probably May, we'll start shearing. You want them to have 60 days of regrowth wool before they get processed, slaughtered. So, and then that is used a lot of things, your lamb pelts and everything, like your luxury cars, a lot of things like that. It's used in Ugg boots. That's from lamb. So that's lamb leather and wool. So. Not too much else. Go ahead.
Okay, so these are the lambs that you've had on your farm?
Correct.
Or whatever. So how many lambs do you save that,
Yep.
well, not really save, but
Yep.
how many do you keep on your farm that you had born there?
Okay,
How many do
so
you
all
sell?
our ewes now are, we started out, we had to buy some, of course, to get started, and so, but we're about 100% of our ewes we've raised now. But we figure we're gonna need to keep about 20%, so we have 1,300 ewes now, so we're gonna have to keep about 20% of that 1,300 just to stay at 1,300. That we usually are selling or culling about 20% of our ewes in a year. So we have ewes in our flock that are 8 years old and are still producing fine, but we have ewes that are 3, 4-year-olds that didn't produce that well that we'll have to get rid of. So.
And what do you do with the cull set?
It's the same kind of thing. It's a lot of the ewes are sold as an ethnic market thing. So certain religions and stuff will buy the whole ewe, and that is, we're gonna have a barbecue, we're gonna cook out, this is what we're eating.
They go to Denver then? Or?
Nope, the ewes go to Sioux Falls. It's a regional livestock. It's an auction barn there, and then they're collected from there and sold to, yep.
Okay.
But, yeah.
In pet food, you see ingredients increasingly mention lamb.
Yep.
Is that a recent development?
Yeah, I'm not, probably, so before coal use, so this is the evolution of coal use, like when I first started, were 10 to 15 cents a pound, which is, I just sold a load last week that were like $1.10 a pound. So that's the difference. So before, yes, a lot of coal use went into pet food and stuff, but now it's more of it's a consumption thing. But I'm sure it's just, offal from processing stuff. So, but yeah. So like this Superior Farms where we sell our sheep, they have a whole pet division, and so it's different pet foods and stuff like that.
It's a market.
Yeah, it is, and so yeah, it's just like any you're trying to get everything you can out of that process. So.
And you started in this because you thought it was, you could get a start in it
Yep, and
less expensively than hot.
There just really isn't a lot you can be independent in anymore that isn't.
So I'm surprised and then you said we're only 25% comes from here. Why aren't more people going into?
A lot of work.
Oh.
It's a lot of work. I mean, I spend, during lambing, I'm out there 16, 18 hours a day, and it's a lot of work.
And we don't realize that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have hired help then too?
Not,
or you're
no.
just trying to do this as?
Yep.
as your
His
family.
daughter.
Well,
Yeah, I don't hire her, so it's forced labor I'm a little bit of, but I get about 2 hours a day from her, that's about it.
Does Rebecca do?
She used to help all the time. Yep, she did, but yep, she does not do that anymore. She found
She's
something she
got
likes way better.
schedule.
Yeah. She found something she likes way better than this, so.
But this
yeah.
sounds more like it's something independently you can do versus
Yep.
hogs. Am I getting
Yeah,
comparing
it's
the
the
two
same, yeah,
correctly?
it is. I'm not bashing hogs,
No, but I mean,
that's just the way,
it
yeah.
just takes
Yeah,
more.
it is. Yep. You have a question, Becca?
Well, I was just wondering, sometimes I drive by a hog confinement place and there's dead hogs out there. And do you have much death?
Yep, we have death loss. So our biggest death loss time is during lambing. So a lot of times we'll have, you have triplets or quads, and so she's cleaning 1 or 2 of them off and the other one comes out, and when they come out, they have, it's not really placenta, but it's birthing fluid all over them, and they'll digest that and not make it and stuff. So that's why you try to be out there as much as you can, but at night you'll have that. And so, yep, that's probably our greatest amount. Once we get them really probably 4 to 5 weeks old, you're pretty well good. Yep, we really cut down then. So, and it's the same with ewes. That's it, really when we'll lose ewes is during the birthing process. Something will go wrong, something will tear, that's when we'll lose our ewes too. So.
How many bucks does it take, how many males does it take to take care of all the females in a batch?
Okay, so we will breed, so we use, for example, we bred 500 yearlings and ewe lambs with 8 buck lambs.
500 with 8?
Yep. So their ability to breed is way, but all our is naturally bred. They have not, they are starting to do AI with sheep, but they're not very successful. It's just not, it's about 55–60% they're getting bred when they're AI, and it's not using this with the sheep. With the sheep, they are, to make them AI, they're actually flipping them on their back, and they make a small incision, and they have to go right into the fallopian tubes. I would think that'd be the right
That sounds
term.
hard.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
It's hard on the
Yeah,
sheep.
and so that we natural breed all ours. So
The funny thing about how all animals are designed is that you'll find that animals that have 1 or 2, humans, sheep, horses, bulls, the actual design of the tools is much different than animals that have big litters. You have rabbits and dogs, somebody?
With dogs. I don't have dogs, I just.
Yeah, when a dog mates when a male dog and a female dog mate, he deposits his very much inside, way in. So does a boar, way in, and animals that are further out, animals that only have 1 or 2, the deposition is much further away from the egg.
I think it's too. I think the possibility of, the way sheep evolved and stuff, inbreeding is that one buck is going to breed all these ewes, but most likely he's only going to do that for 1 or 2 years because that's his, their out lifespan.
Oh, that's, I was gonna head there with that question.
Our bucks we don't have them, so our bucks, they'll be 5 to 6 years old. But I'm saying in nature, you think of a deer, how many years is it going to breed? It's not many years, so that's kind of, it all evolved from there, so.
And they go to Sioux Falls then, when their lifespan is?
Yep, they go with the ewes to Sioux Falls, yep. Yep, and and sheep, there's some guys that do not, some ethnicities do not want the male sheep castrated, so they will not do that. It does not have like a boar, a real strong, it's kind of like a bull. You can grind that meat and sell that, so.
And where are you sending most of your lambs? Or where? where's your market for?
So we send them all, they all go to Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
So, yep, yep. And so that's where they all go. And so, yeah, we house them all in hoop structures. This is one of our, kind of our smaller ones. And, yep, it's just a.
Who gets them to Denver for you? Is that a
Yep.
company?
Yep, so through our we contract them and sell them as a group. And so, like, we have we'll sell between 150 to 250 at a time, we usually sell. And a truck can hold about 340. So they'll stop at our place, pick them up, and then there's a collection station in Hayward, Iowa, and they'll stop there and fill out the truck and then head to Denver. That's usually what happens. So there's actually a few larger sheep producers in this area. There's one down by Storm Lake, one over by Mallard, and then we'll coordinate with them sometime too that are in our program. So, yeah. Well, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Ray and Kevin. Thank you, SMU, for being here, and you guys have a safe trip home.